Running your business as a tutor, as an educator, it often brings this really strange mix of freedom as well as pressure. So you might have chosen this path for the flexibility, for the impact, the joy of teaching without the restrictions or extra red tape or paperwork. I know they were certainly some of my reasons. Yet somehow, even though you feel that freedom, somehow stress still finds its way in. Maybe it's because you feel like you're falling behind, maybe there's a never-ending to-do list, or maybe you're wondering, am I even doing this right? Today's episode is based on all of this, and we're going to have a little mindset reset. I'm going to share 6 things that I remind myself of, as well as my clients, when it all feels like a lot, when things are feeling really noisy, really overwhelming. Now, these aren't fluffy motivational quotes. If you've known me for a while, you'll know that's not quite my style. These are going to be grounded truths that can genuinely help ease that pressure without compromising on your ambition or just feeling aligned with where you're at right now. So let's take a deep breath and let's dive in. Okay, I'm going to jump straight in today. And the first thing is, you don't need to dominate your market in order to be successful. It's really easy to feel small in a saturated industry. In fact, it's very easy to feel like you're in a saturated industry when that's where you're immersed, especially when you see other people just showing up everywhere: Instagram, YouTube, events, maybe even in the local paper. But the reality is that you don't need a giant piece of the pie. You just need your slice. The clients who are a right fit for you, the people you want to work with, the people you want to make your impact on. Let's say you wanted to earn, and I'm just going to pluck a figure out of thin air. Let's say you wanted to earn £5,000 a month. You might only need, let's say, 12 clients to get there, or X number of groups, or just, depends on your offers, obviously. Now, out of the hundreds and thousands of potential clients out there, that's actually just a tiny fraction. Reminding yourself of this can be hugely liberating because you can stop chasing everyone else's version of success, if you like. You can focus on being visible to the people who really get what you offer. They really value what you offer. But most importantly, you don't have to feel like you're running behind or that there isn't enough space for you. It's having that abundance mindset, but actually applying some logic that helps you feel it. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is to remember that someone is looking up to you right now, whether you know it or not. It's so normal to look at people who are further down the road, or people who just seem more confident, more visible, more experienced. And it's really easy to look at them and feel a bit insecure about yourself, like you're somehow falling behind, or, who are they to be doing X, Y, and Z when I'm more experienced than them, for example. These thoughts do creep in when you're of the mindset of comparing yourself with other people, but also when you're not certain and confident in what you're doing. You want to feel really comfortable with where you're at and really aligned with where you're at. And if you do, then you won't feel that way when you look around you. But just circling back to what I mentioned about how someone is looking up to you right now, whether you know it or not. Just like you look around and there are people who seem more confident or who seem further ahead than you, people are looking at you and they're feeling inspired by you. They're feeling like, wow, this person's further ahead and look how confident they seem. So this isn't about ego. This is about perspective. You may not feel like a leader, for example. You may not feel like you're this most visible person, but to someone else, you're already showing them what's possible, just like you look around and feel inspired by other people. Number 3, and this is possibly my favorite, you can change your mind any time. This has been such a game-changing mantra for me. It really has. It has eliminated fear of just trying things out and seeing what happens, knowing that I can change my mind anytime. It has helped me with my pricing. I don't have to fix a price, and that's the final thing I have to stand by. I can change it whenever I want. It has helped me launch things in my business, even if I don't feel ready, because I know that I can change it as much as I like, as many times as I like. And it's probably the one piece of advice that I say the most to my clients, because they feel this heavy pressure of making decisions, particularly my one to one clients, because my program is very much about making solid decisions that give you options later on. But at some point, we have to be decisive. And people feel really uncomfortable sometimes. And I remind them that make a decision based on what feels right now, because you can change your mind later as many times as you like. So, the thing to really remember is that there's no single track in business, in tuition, in anything really. You can shift your focus, drop an offer, adapt your marketing, raise your prices. You can do it as many times as you need to or want to. One of the most stressful things is when you feel like you have to get it right the first time. Forget about getting it perfect. That's a whole other thing. But actually feeling like you have to get it right the first time, that's a lot of pressure. But the reality is, whether you're at the beginning stages, whenever, you can experiment, you can evolve, you are allowed to evolve. So, maybe you tried group classes and everyone's going on about group classes, but you just didn't love it. It's not your thing. That's fine. You can tweak it, you can pause it, you can change the format, whatever you like. That platform that you joined or that community you joined that's feeling a bit draining, maybe it's just not the right time for you. You can leave, you can go back later. So, flexibility isn't the same as failure. Being flexible, adapting, and responding to what you need, in my view, is actually a strength. Number 4, your clients care far less about perfection than you do. We all do it. We obsess over the typo in a caption and getting the colors absolutely right. For me, the slight background noise that happens when the plane goes by outside my window. But the people who listen to us, work with us, consume our content, they're not grading us. I'm pretty sure right now you haven't got your scorebook out and you're not giving me some kind of score about the quality of this episode. In fact, your willingness to show up imperfectly might actually make you more approachable. I've had clients tell me that they really appreciate me leaving mistakes like the one I just made, leaving mistakes in the podcast. They've told me about how they really felt connected to me when I've talked about something that's happened in my life, and it gave them permission to do the same. So, of course, we all care about the quality. Look, I've invested in this expensive microphone because I know that even if you aren't watching on YouTube, you're listening in your ear, and I don't want the sound to be grating for you. But the reality is, I live on the Heathrow flight path. If I wait for planes to stop, then I'd have to record this at 1 a.m. That's not going to happen. So that's just one example. But the reality is that where we're caring about perfection and getting things right, think about who you're creating something for and whether they care about it, because chances are they don't. Number 5, I really like this one. You do need to be the best. But that doesn't mean you need to be the best against your competition. You just need to be the best for your people. So let's break this down. Trying to be the best can feel like a trap. It's very vague, it's subjective, it's exhausting. But being the best fit for your clients, that's totally achievable. That's sustainable. If you work with neurodivergent learners, for example, your tone, your approach, your flexibility, all of that might make you the perfect choice. Even if someone else might have a fancier website, for example, or have more experience than you, there could be just that magic spark that makes you and that other person the perfect combination. If your superpower is helping anxious teens find their voice, for example, then your clients aren't comparing you to someone with a maths PhD. Define who you're the best for and build around that, because that's where real confidence grows. We often try to compare ourselves to other people, and it's this kind of race to be even better than everyone else. But actually, when you reframe that and just think, well, actually, I just need to be the best solution for the people whose problems I'm solving, you can be really focused and you're not competing with anyone other than yourself. You're just trying to get that 1% better. I don't know about you, but I'm always curious and I'm always trying to learn. Can I be the best at everything? No. Am I the best, better than everyone else? No. But I am the best person for my clients because we're really compatible. I'm going out and I'm always learning and I'm bringing that back to them in the way that I know they need. That's my focus. And that should be all of our focuses. Now for the next one, number 6. We're going to tackle the what ifs. We have to remember that when things don't go to plan, nothing terrible happens. And you might be thinking, well, that depends on the plan, and you're absolutely right. But as I learned from Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week, in fact, I didn't adopt the 4-Hour Work Week, but I did adopt this. He runs you through this exercise about a worst case scenario. And he picks a pretty tough one. What if you lose all your money, for example? And he says, what would you do in that situation? How could you recover? And I think that that's so useful, that exercise. If you're feeling anxious about something not working, do a worst case scenario and ask yourself, okay, well, how would I recover from that? What's the worst that could happen? And often the things that we're dealing with, the things that we're scared of, the what ifs that we're scared of, when we look at it as, what's the worst that can happen, the worst isn't really that bad generally. But, trying something new, a workshop, a group offer, a new social media platform, whatever it might be, it's really natural to bring up fear. What if no one signs up? What if I mess up? What if it's a flop? What if people, no one engages, for example? But, as I mentioned earlier, most things are recoverable and the worst doesn't necessarily mean anything too bad. At the very most, you might feel a bit bruised, but you're not wrecking your reputation or your business or anything like that. Everything is a learning opportunity, as cheesy as that sounds. It's a learning opportunity. We learn something from all of these situations. And I'm sure you can agree that the biggest growth often comes after something doesn't quite work out because you analyze why it doesn't work. And therefore you get clarity and it nudges you to get better or to do something better. So just remember that with most situations in your business where you're worried, you have so much to gain and very little to lose. Every new thing is a doorway. It might lead you to something else, even if it's something slightly different to what you originally expected. So I've really zipped through those 6 things, and I did that intentionally today because this doesn't need to be a really meaty episode. We just need these short, sharp reminders. They really help me because I'm not immune to worrying about what ifs. I'm not immune to worrying about what people think. But what you do with those feelings is really important. And these 6 things have really, really helped me. So I'll do a quick summary. The first one is to remember that you don't need the whole metaphorical pie. You just need a slice of it. So we don't need to feel worried that we're in a saturated market and there aren't enough clients for us. The second one was, if you're feeling like you're falling a bit behind or you often compare yourself to other people and feel like you're not as good as them, remember that someone out there sees you as their inspiration. You're showing them what's possible. The third thing was that we can change our minds at any time, again and again. I love that one. It's my favorite. The next one was that perfection isn't required. Clarity, care, impact matters more. And the people who we're creating things for don't care about that perfection as much as us. The next one was to be the best, but the best for your people. You don't need to be the best overall. You don't need to take over the world to be successful. And the next one was that trying something new isn't a risk. It's a doorway often. So which one stood out for you the most? Which one did you really need to hear? I hope there was one of them in there at least. I think when you reflect on these questions, they really reshape how you think about your business and how you approach things as well. What you might feel like is a risk, you might think, well, actually, it's not that big a risk when I think about it. And remember, you don't have to figure this out alone. We go deep into these kinds of things in all the support options that I offer, whether it's my membership, the Tutors Mastermind, or whether it's my one-to-one bespoke program. And there are plenty of places for free as well. I've got a Facebook group and there are many other groups and communities where you can talk these things out. But if you want to join these kinds of conversations, as well as having really structured training, then have a look at my website, www.upgradeyouraeducationbusiness.com, and you'll see what I offer for free and paid. So I hope this episode has alleviated some pressure if you've been feeling it. Thanks, as always, for staying with me till the end. And if you have a really quick moment, if you could leave a review and hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, that would be brilliant. See you next week. You'll hear from me on Wednesday.